oh, we can't really be shocked in that way again. Like seeing somebody's head explode or whatever, that's not shocking anymore. It's not surprising. So it doesn't work to just kill off people in a gruesome way. You have to make the audience care first, and then you kill them in a gruesome way. You see, and then they care. So it's a small change. It's a small change.
Decentralized Pictures Talent Cast. Good to have you all here. I am in studio with Max and Ted, the creative minds behind Eyes of the Crow, the recipient of our latest financial assistance grant, number 8. This has been an incredibly popular award, and it's just awesome to see all the recipients come through prior to this award. And Max and Ted, I know that we've seen your submission come through a couple times, and this time, you were rewarded with first place. So congratulations to you guys, and great to have you here today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right on, right on. Well, we'll talk about kind of that, what I like to call, and it's just so necessary in filmmaking, that persistence of, coming back, taking the audience feedback, refining, and then ultimately, you get to a place like this. This is great. So to kick us off, I always like to give the audience an opportunity to learn about the filmmakers and the creative minds behind these projects. So Max, Ted, tell us a little bit about yourselves and your previous works.
Yeah, Ted and I met 2017 in Brighton Film School in the UK. And then we were assigned to come up with a story for a small project, a test film together. And from that moment on, we worked on many projects as a duo, writing and directing duo.
Yeah, we've done several cool films and other little projects here and there, little documentary, something back at film school, and a few other things, and a feature film sort of more recently that's currently still out on Amazon and Apple, called Thieves in the Night. And now we're sort of getting ready for our second big feature. So this one is a lot more ambitious than our first film. So we need the help. So DCP has been a good partner for us in that.
Excellent. So tell me about the genre. Is it always, I know Eyes of the Crow is in the horror genre, so has it always, with your collaborations, always been horror, or have you dabbled in other areas as well?
Well, our first feature, Thieves in the Night, was a home invasion thriller, black comedy a little bit. I like horror a lot, but we want to give it our own spin, I would say.
Sure.
Yeah, we like to play with the genres a little bit. So yeah, it's not always going to be horror. Although whenever we sit down to write something, it always ends up with somebody dying or something unfortunate happening. So it's never intended, oh, we're gonna sit down and write a nice little horror. It's just that it always ends up being, in that direction. So, we're just rolling with the punches here. We are but a vessel for the stories. I don't know.
I love it. Okay, so what I'm hearing here, it doesn't matter whether it's a drama, a comedy, straight up horror. Be careful getting too attached to the characters because they can die at any time.
Yeah, I think that would be a fair assessment.
You've been warned.
But I hope Pharaohs get attached. I hope you do get attached before they die, though.
It hurts more that way. It's more impactful. Yeah. It's way more impactful.
That is very important to us. They're not just meatbags dying, that they're flesh out characters.
Yeah, because it doesn't. We don't care. We've become now, desensitized to just kind of gore and blood and all the things that kind of worked. So when Giallo was the first wave of giallo films, in the 70s, and in that era. At that time, there was a lot of shock because of the gruesome nature of it. Giallo films were quite, they didn't pull any punches when it came to violence and blood and gore and whatnot, and nudity actually. But it's now we live in a post kind of shock factor world where the stuff that we see on HBO and the stuff that we see just just general films is already a lot. We can't really be shocked in that way again, like seeing somebody's head explode or whatever. That's not shocking anymore. It's not surprising. So it doesn't work to just kill off people in a gruesome way. You have to make the audience care first, and then you kill them in a gruesome way. You see, and then they care. So it's a small change. It's a small change.
But
It's a slow and subtle change, but necessary. Yeah. No, modern audiences actually, a lot of people sort of denigrate modern audiences. Oh, they have no, attention span, and they're stupid and everything, and media literacy, is not always ideal. However, the problem is that also actually this audience is seen at all in many ways. So in order to surprise them, you have to or make them care in some way, because they've seen all these stories told many times for like schlock value, and that's fine, but we've seen it all and it's not going to work again. So this time around, I think, but the style of it all, the style of giallo and the extreme violence at times, and the hard lights and the colors and everything, that's very cool. So we want to keep that, but we now need to kind of repackage it. We need to rethink it. We need to care about these people first, and then if they happen to die in a horrible way, then at least you care now. And it's more horrifying.
I even want some people rooting for the bad guy. He kind of makes sense. I mean, in a crazy way, but yeah, he has a point, even though it's wrong.
Well, since you guys are diving into the style, I just want to take the audience and first of all, let me just give you kudos. So some just great applause for your submission here, and I think that this is great for other filmmakers, creators that are first discovering decentralized pictures, that this is kind of what it takes to stand out from the other submissions, because most of our call them competitions, if you will, award competitions, and to be able to rise to the top, it takes this kind of level of granularity to really stand out, and having a nice, attractive, first of all, have the entire script uploaded here, and then your pitch deck, which is really well done, and it really gives a strong idea and gives focus to really what the production's really gonna look like. So yeah, you touched on some of this. And this was, for those, I think you've already kind of given the audience kind of a decent understanding of what this style of horror genre kind of looks like. And tell us just a little bit more about the lighting, the characters, what can kind of really bring this story to life.
Well, it started with the title already, because giallo films usually have a color in the title or an animal. And the first thing we called it was the blue eyes of the crow, but then I thought, okay, that's a bit too much. Let's just stick to one of them. Then you have the killer who normally uses a razor. Which we also did, and did some interesting stuff in the opening already, where it tried to frame it like a suicide, but yeah, then dropped that idea later. Well, the killer, we had it still in the script. Yeah. And the extreme lighting every time especially during the death scenes, that will be when the lighting gets more exaggerated.
Right, right.
And Christmas colors in the background in the pub always helps.
A
Yeah,
holiday
setting it around
slasher
Christmas.
film. I love it.
Yeah, setting it around Christmas has some advantages. It gives you free production value. Well, it gives you a good reason to have cool, colorful lights in the background, which does help, as Max touched upon. And as you can see in some of our concept images there. But I think, yeah, the giallo style of films, they're known for being sort of quite violent, and they are quite gruesome, quite gritty, as opposed to kind of the Hollywood horror movies of the time. They were quite sort of visceral. A lot of stabbing, a lot of razors being used, and yeah, certain little rules like Max touched on, like of being a color involved. The yellow outline, obviously giallo meaning yellow in Italian. The yellow outline of the posters became kind of a trademark of giallo films. And it's a type of film that we haven't seen. They became out of fashion, a bit like the '80s action film. So but there is a way to do it in a more modern way. I think that they could merge it, because we've seen films like Neon Demon and like Euphoria, for example, is very popular, which have similar styles visually, but obviously had a very different subject matter. And so the audience is very much primed for a more kind of visual experience. So yeah, let's play a little bit, with the modern kind of vision sensibilities of horror films. Why not?
I love that. I love that. So let's jump into now. So thanks for all those details. I think that gives the audience a really good concept of the direction that you're taking this project. So tell us about kind of like the process with Decentralized Pictures. You've been here for a while. You've previously obviously submitted to this award, was the ultimate recipient. But tell us about some of that kind of feedback that you received, some refinement that you made to the proposal to kind of get to this state.
Yeah, the first submission, we didn't have a pitch video. So that was the first feedback we got, that this would help because people vote not on projects alone, but also on people. So once we added that, we got in second place for the next round, or for the next assistant grant. And then we said, yeah, well, as long as we're getting in second place, we'll try again and refine the script, which we cut down from 126 to 92 pages during the course of, I think, I don't know, 5 submissions or what we did. And we always came in second place. And yeah, this time it worked out. But yeah, the community knew us a bit better at that point.
I think so. And also we did refine the proposal each time a little bit. We added a bit more detail. We took away some stuff. It was a good opportunity to focus. And you were showing our pitch proposal as an example. Well, when we first joined, our pitch deck was non-existent, or it was not good. And we went through and we looked at quite a lot of other proposals, and we picked up ideas, and we were like, oh, hold on, we need to include that. Fine, okay, let's do it. So looking at other proposals was definitely very, very useful for us when we first came into it, and adding the video and then polishing it and narrowing it down again. I think that was definitely useful. And we've got a cinematographer that we are working with on this, and he gave us some ideas about the script as well. So it's been honed down to what, 97 did you say, Max, or 92?
92.
92. Yeah, no, that's yeah. So it's a lot more focused now, and I think that helps as well. And like Max said as well, I think people know us now on DCP a bit more, and I think that's helpful. It's a community after all, so you know, you should engage and be active. I could be more active.
No, that's wonderful, and that's exactly what we're aiming for at Decentralized Pictures. Is we understand that there are some there's a mix. You know, there's really experienced filmmakers that have been around for a while, and then there's you know, new filmmakers that are first dipping their toe into the water, and then maybe it's their first script that they want to produce. You know, so having that, capturing that community aspect and that feedback, and being receptive to it in the right way, where we're trying to nurture and grow and see people's projects evolve. And again, I applaud you guys for, because you know, some folks, it's tough to come in second place, especially more than once. You know, some people like, okay, I'm sick of this, I'm out of here, you know. But you guys had the right approach. The persistence paid off, and you stuck with it, and here we are today.
Yeah, no, and it's gonna be very useful for us.
Yeah.
So I think that's useful. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's jump into that. So, okay, so you have a 90-plus page screenplay here. I mean, this is a real feature film. This is going to be a real production. There's a lot of a lot that's going to go into this, as was shown in the pitch deck. So, this award, $1,500. It's a nice grant. But obviously you're going to need a little bit more than that to, you know, produce a little bit more to help you produce a 90-plus page, you know, screenplay. So tell us how this grant money is going to be put to use, and then kind of what the future plans are as well for, you know, pre-production and ultimately moving into production.
Yeah. So our plan is to get a professional script coverage, submit the script to some festivals, so we might get some laurels, and just make the pitch deck put more gravitas behind it. So yeah, because we don't have connections that people can fund this, so we need everything that makes it more professional and easy to invest in. And of course, going to those festivals and making connections.
It's expensive business, you know. People talk about, like let's take it on the festival circuit, you know, when you have a film finished. But that's expensive, you know. Each festival you have to apply for it. You have to pay entrance fee. You have to go there. Obviously, that's tickets and that's accommodation and stuff. So having a little bit of fund gives us more flexibility to be able to do something, you know, and yeah, I think with this one we are gonna take it next. We're currently in the process of approaching casting directors to try and, you know, attach some of the people that we have in mind for this, which would be fantastic. We have a wonderful director of photography who has a good team behind him, so we can do it. It's just we need to get all the ducks in a row financially to be able to do it. Is what everyone struggles with, of course. Funding is the main issue with filmmaking, but this is helpful. This is helpful because, you know, otherwise you're spending your own money doing all these things that you don't know how they're going to work out. And that's the thing with any art, really, where you have to rely on other people, their time, their equipment, or, you know, you have to get your own equipment. All these things require, you know, convincing people, and having a little bit of money from this fund to be able to go around and help convince people, I think is the main difference is going to make.
Max, Ted, it was so awesome to chat with you guys and catch up and, you know, hear about Eyes of the Crow. And again, I'm really happy for you guys. Persistence pays off. So that's the message to all the other filmmakers that are out there that are competing for these awards. We do have another Financial Assistance Grant number 9 that's active on the platform right now. There will be more awards coming very soon, potentially one very big one that I think people are going to be really, really excited about. That's all I can say about it right now, but be sure and watch us, decentralized.pictures, for when that drops in all of our social channels as well. So Max, Ted, thanks again, guys. Great chatting with you today.
Thank you, Matt.
You too. Thank you.